Let's talk about Trump's new budget proposal, or as he calls it, his big, beautiful bill.
One big, beautiful bill. I'd like to name it that if you can.
Because of course he calls it that. The man has two adjectives and he's not afraid to overuse either of them. This $4 trillion monstrosity just passed the House. And yes, you heard that right. It's no longer just the troll job for the base, it's a live grenade with the pin halfway already out. It includes massive cuts to Medicaid.
Here's what's in it. It extends the president's signature 2017 tax cuts, and that's at a cost of about $4 trillion. And that's paid for in part by nearly $700 billion in cuts to Medicaid.
Big gifts to defense contractors, and just enough fine print to make Ayn Rand rise from the grave and say, I invented selfishness, but even I have standards. And if you're thinking, well, surely this won't make it through the Senate, remember, this isn't about passing. It's about shifting the window. It's performance policy, plain and simple. Government by shock therapy. It's not a budget. It's a buffet for billionaires with a fuck you dessert tray for everyone who's ever used a public hospital. And he's calling it his big, beautiful bill. Not because it's big, not because it's beautiful, and not because it's actually a bill in any meaningful sense. He calls it that because, like most things he says, it's the opposite of true. It's small-minded, ugly, and what's the opposite of bill? A collection notice, a big, beautiful collection notice addressed to everyone who's ever had to check if urgent care is open on Sundays. And let's be clear, this thing adds over $4 trillion to the new debt. Fiscal responsibility is dead and buried, and they've sold the tombstone for scrap. And we already know what happens when you gut Medicaid. People stop going to doctors and start going to emergency rooms for things like ear infections, asthma attacks, or childbirth. And those hospitals, they drown in unpaid bills and start closing. The end result isn't just bad policy, it's actual limbs being lost because there's no one left to sew them back on. It's not hypothetical. That'll happen. That's the America he's building, and he wants you to clap for it. Let's first talk about the Medicaid cuts, because this bill doesn't just trim Medicaid. It chops it down like someone owes it money. We're talking about $625 billion in cuts over the next 10 years. That's not budget discipline. That's ripping the brakes off a moving ambulance. And who's affected? About 10 million people, including low-income workers, kids, seniors in nursing homes, and people with disabilities. And most of them are already working. These aren't freeloaders, they're waitresses, janitors, home health aides, people who take care of your kids and wipe your grandparents, people already who don't get paid enough. And now they might not even get care when they're sick. And when they lose coverage, they don't just disappear. They go where they have to, the ER. Because even if you don't have insurance, the ER legally has to see you. So instead of catching problems early, people show up late with infections, asthma attacks, preventable crises. And then they get treated in the most expensive, overcrowded, understaffed place possible. It's not healthcare. It's a scramble drill with $14,000 price tag. And the irony, after causing that chaos, Republicans are going to go on TV and say, see, government healthcare is broken. No, it's not completely broken yet. You kicked it down the stairs. Deficit hawks and gold-plated jets. Now here's where it gets truly magical. Because while Trump's big, beautiful bill slashes healthcare for poor people and seniors, it still adds over $4 trillion to the national debt. That's right, this isn't even a balanced act of cruelty. It's cruelty on credit. And suddenly, the same people who spent 4 years screaming about Biden have turned into drunken sailors on defense contractor yacht. You want to talk about hypocrisy? They're cutting programs that literally keep children alive, while increasing Pentagon spending and ramping up tax cuts for the wealthy. And let's pause on that. The Pentagon, an institution that can't pass an audit, is being handed a raise. Meanwhile, your grandma's living facility is being told to do more with less. It's like buying the military diamond encrusted drone and then telling a children's hospital to hold a bake sale for bandages. And when people point out that the math doesn't work, the response is, don't worry, growth will cover it. It's just bad math, it's political gaslighting. Because after blowing a $4 trillion hole in the budget, they'll immediately pivot to demanding cuts to Social Security and Medicare. Medicaid doesn't really matter at this point, claiming, well, look at all of this debt. Yes, the debt you just created. It's the legislative equivalent of shoving someone off a cliff and then running for office on the platform, we really need to do something about all these falling people. Let's talk about what this actually looks like in real life, because these aren't just numbers, they're actual people losing actual care. Hospitals shut down maternity wards, clinics close entirely, people show up with asthma or dental infections and are told, try urgent care, which is closed. Then they're told, try the ER, which is overrun. Then they're told, good luck. You're not navigating a healthcare system, you're playing medical roulette. But somehow, Republicans are celebrating this bill like it's a moral victory. You've got House members holding press conferences like, we're restoring fiscal discipline. We're not that stupid. And I'm fixing poverty by switching fonts and Word. You don't get to call it fiscal discipline when your only strategy is to punish the most vulnerable and hope the economy bails you out before people notice the bleeding. This isn't budgeting, it's symbolic austerity. And they want you to look like they're solving a crisis while actually causing one, and blaming someone else. It's like burning down the library and running for school board on the platform. Why don't these kids read anymore? And you know what happens next. They'll blame the immigrants, or the teachers, or the cities, anyone but the ones who actually wrote the bill. Now let's look at who wins under the big beautiful bill. Because while Medicaid is getting gutted and public schools are scrapping together textbooks from the Bush administration, guess who's getting a boost? The ultra wealthy. This bill doesn't just cut services, it slashes IRS enforcement so the top 1% can keep dodging taxes with a smile and a Delaware address. It's like firing all the tax auditors because the billionaires pinky promised that they're being honest this time. That's billions in lost revenue. Not because the economy's struggling, but because the richest people in America just don't feel like contributing. And apparently, that's fine. Oh, and don't worry, the bill still finds room to increase defense spending. And look, I'm not anti-military at all. We need defense spending. But the only reason we're really going to need more of it is because we're actively alienating all our allies. We don't want to be Germany circa 1939, surrounded, paranoid, and picking fights with the people they used to vacation with. They're not just defunding the poor, they're replacing public infrastructure with private profit. Less housing assistance, more luxury condos. Fewer school nurses, more consultants. Every social safety net is being unraveled and stitched together into a hammock for someone who owns a private island. And the thing is, it's not accidental. This is how you shrink the state on purpose. You underfund it, you break it, you make people hate it. And when it fails, you say, see, government can't do anything right. It's not reform, it's sabotage, designed to make democracy look like the problem. Here's the truth. This bill isn't just a budget, it's a blueprint. And it's not about the numbers, it's about the values. And those values are loud and clear. Punish the poor, reward the rich. Hollow out the public sector, then blame the collapse on the people who needed help the most. This is how you dismantle democracy, not with tanks in the street, but with 1,000 line items that quietly make the government useless. No Medicaid, no housing assistance, no IRS enforcement. That's not fiscal discipline, that's infrastructure arson. It's the state equivalent of yanking out the plumbing and then acting shocked when the place starts to smell. And what do you replace it with? Private profit, political loyalty, fear. Suddenly, if you want help, you don't go to the DMV. You go to a donor. You go to a mega church. You go to your congressman's office and hope you're wearing the right hat. And Trump, he's not hiding it at all, he's bragging about it. This is the big, beautiful bill. A bill that's not big, not beautiful, and barely even a bill. It's a threat, a declaration that if you're not rich, not connected, not willing to play ball, then you're on your own. And if that sounds harsh, good. It's supposed to, because this isn't a bad budget. It's a warning, and it's time we take it seriously. If this episode of Lies of the Orange Era made you laugh, wince, or question reality, good. That means it worked. Subscribe and help us document the lies of the Orange Era before history gets rewritten.